I'm Kylie with Kiwibox.com, and as we all know, the current election year is upon us. So today we're inside of the New York Historical Society to find out a little bit more about our past elections. To walk us through is New York Historical Society Curator Stephen Edited.
Hi Kylie, thanks for having me.
Thanks for having us.
Oh, it's a pleasure to be here.
So what are we seeing right now? The Elected?
If Elected is a show that shows the whole history in one little corner of the American presidential election system.
That's amazing.
We think so.
Can you tell us a little bit more about the exhibition?
Yeah, it's an exhibition drawn entirely from materials in the New York Society's collection that deals with the campaign elections basically from about 1828 through 2008.
All right, well, let's go take a look.
Absolutely. I thought we'd start out with this wonderful banner behind us, which is called the Curators banner. In 1788, when they were about to confirm the Constitution in New York State, the people in favor of it decided to do a huge street demonstration, and the Curators, who were like a sort of union that produced a type of metal, had this banner and displayed it and walked throughout New York. This kind of demonstration was popular in the United States. You remember the Boston Tea Party and other things like that. But once we started to campaign for the presidency, the first ones, George Washington, Thomas Jefferson, John Adams, they didn't demonstrate at all. In fact, it was considered bad form to publicize yourself during an election year. And over here, Washington, Adams, and Jefferson. And as I said, they basically stayed home because it was vulgar to go out and campaign, and even their supporters weren't supposed to say anything except that they were good guys and good Republicans. But in 1824, this man down here, Andrew Jackson, lost a campaign. There were 4 candidates that year, and he actually won the most votes and the most electoral votes. But 2 of the other ones got together, and they decided that someone else would become the president, and he was furious. And out of that fury began our modern electioneering.
What's the oldest item that you have?
Well, I think probably these little sewing boxes, which are from 1824 or 1828, which was a campaign between John Quincy Adams and Andrew Jackson. And this is where things started to change. John Quincy Adams was seen as sort of part of the old school, sort of an aristocrat, somebody that was not popular with just the common folk. And his box is sort of more sedate, and it just says, "Support our man." But Andrew Jackson, on the other hand, is more vibrant, and what he said, he was old hickory. He was an old battle guy, and he was for the people. And so you start to see those kind of changes in these little boxes. The other thing that's interesting is that campaign objects were considered collectibles. And so these things were meant to be collected, not just to be displayed during the election year.
As they still are today.
Exactly. They are very popular. If you go on eBay, you'll notice that.
Let's walk over to the buttons for a second. I want to know a little bit more. What's the history behind these?
Well, campaign buttons really started around 1860. That was Lincoln's first campaign. And in those days, they did what were called tintypes. And they're really hard for you to see, but these little dots here are just photographs that were printed on not tin, but a type of metal. That's what a campaign button was. It didn't really have the fancy phrasing we know today. But around 1896, the late 19th century, they developed a technique that involved celluloid, which was plastic. They would print something on a piece of paper, cover it with plastic, and put a pin around it, and that became your campaign button. In the 1920s, they figured out how to print directly on metal, and things became livelier. And of course, today, anything goes.
Out of all these items, do you have a favorite?
Oh, I don't know. I think the Ike dress is pretty dramatic. I mean, this is right over here. It's not exactly fashionable. Apparently, in the early days, it would have been worn with more of a petticoat, but still, it gives you an idea that somebody who we consider sort of a conservative presidential candidate was doing something kind of funny with these kind of dresses. And you know, in the 1960s, the candidates had paper dresses, which was sort of a discotheque thing. And so, you know, they're still starting to do things like that today. They're kind of funny.
I think they're pretty fashionable.
Yeah, I do. And then, of course, you've got these bandanas. The bandanas started as a popular theme in the 1840s, but they became really popular at the turn of the 19th century. And here we have a Bikers for Kerry, one from 2004, and, of course, W04 in your Texas theme. So it's something that continues on today, and I'm sure that both sides today have bandanas.
Why do you think this exhibit is so important, especially with the current elections that are coming up?
I just think it gives people an idea of how people campaigned in prior times, and that's different, but also that the ideas that people express in sort of popular images are really always the same. You have to prove that you're a person of the people in some way. That is really important.
How long has the exhibit been running for?
Well, the exhibit opened on July 4th, symbolically, and it closes symbolically on January 20th, which is Inauguration Day.
Well, thank you so much. It's an amazing exhibit, and I'm ready for my election.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.